Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first episode review of Halo. I am the hashtag Travis told you so, and I'm joined by
The elite Kirklin Patzer.
I am the Adam Caster, Dylan Musk.
The Demon Taylor Field.
lots of stuff going on this week. We had the Patreon picks, we had Excalibur, American Beauty retros drop. Thank you to Charles and Maddie. I will say thank goodness. This is the best thing. If you go to our highest tier, you can jump on there, pick a movie for us to review, and you can listen to our Excalibur review. Wasn't the most fondest, but I was very happy that Charles messaged us after saying, like, oh, I just wanted you guys to see it. I was laughing my ass off. Yeah, it's a pretty bad movie.
Nice.
But me, Dylan, we were not big fans of these movies, and we were really like, oh, man, I hope it's not one of Charles' favorites or something like that. So
Yeah,
he did it. Aaron did it to us, Color of Space, after he told us, like, yeah, I think it's a shit movie. I just want you to watch it. So I don't know what I prefer, people recommending the good movies or the bad movies to make us suffer, but either way, we thank you. We got two of those at the week, Excalibur and American Beauty, so we got that going on. We just had the MCU draft, which was tons of fun. I'm not going to spoil picks. In a couple weeks, I think we'll probably put the picks out there in the public before Doctor Strange, but that's why I go listen to the episode. We got a side quest popping off this week with State of Play of Harry Potter and Tunic, and Taylor had again some Assassin's Creed, because he's waiting for that show. We got a Halo show. So where's that Assassin's Creed Netflix show, Taylor?
I don't know. I'm abrasive after this review.
That might be a little preview. Lots of stuff popping off. We have a mini news segment. We got the Golden Geeks winners dropping this Sunday. Taylor, where can they find it all?
Ladies and gentlemen, you can find it with your internet connection. GeekVerse.ca is our home base. GeekVerseCast is the Twitter, and GeekVerse podcast on the Facebook.
Yeah, description down below. Everything you can find, the video, the audio feeds, the podcast network, all the separate feeds for all the separate shows, our Twitter accounts, and the best thing to do is Patreon. Like I said, you can get Patreon picks, pick a film for us to review, episodes ad-free, exclusive, and early, tons of fun stuff, and the more you support us, the more content you create, so we thank you, all you guys and gals, for doing that. After 9, the next After 9, I think will be like end of April, so look out for that. Yeah, let's just jump right into it. It's non-spoilers. Usually I would save this man for last because I always feel like he's the most positive, but I feel like Kirklin said one thing in the chat that summed it all up, that we had known Taylor had watched Halo all for half the day, and he had said nothing, and then he just dropped this little nugget. So I'm gonna throw it to my Wolf Order partner, who, Kirklin, you said former Wolf Order. We're not. We're team title champions right now. Wolf Order's back together, stronger than ever, despite his wife slapping me, stronger than ever. So I'm gonna throw it to you, Taylor. One of the biggest fans.
He did throw a tweet out there, I will say that.
He
He didn't explicitly talk about the show, but
he
I
did?
feel like
Oh.
it maybe could lend to what he thinks.
I did throw
Check
a
those
tweet.
tweets.
I hadn't seen that. I thought you saw the Wolf Forward tweet. I'm like, no, I didn't see you tweeting at me. But yeah, Taylor, you're probably the biggest Halo fan I know. This show has been, we literally were talking about this, part of my nickname. We've been talking about this since the podcast started, because it was one of those when the movie happened, and I think it was around when our podcast started. They're like, yeah, we're going to do this TV show instead, and it hit development hell after development hell. And yeah, as usual, give you non-spoiler thoughts. We'll do a little break and get the spoilers. But yeah, the floor is yours. What did you think of the very first episode of Paramount Plus's Halo?
Yeah, wow. Going right off the hop, getting into this episode, I got excited. I got jazzed. Like the first 20 minutes to half an hour had me really pumped. I was like, okay, like there's some things that are a little iffy here, but like I can overlook it. This is great. I'm feeling like we're in Halo. And then they decided to kind of take a left turn into the back half of the episode. And I was really trying hard not to think, okay, like this is its own interpretation. I can't be thinking like, hey, I play the games, I know the storyline, the campaign, all that jazz. I can't let that kind of be playing an effect here. But they stuck true to a few different things, and they changed some characters a little bit, which is totally fine how they execute. I think it's fantastic. But at its core, I feel like they literally took the Halo game storylines and like compiled elements of it into one 58-minute episode, which made it really rushed, in my opinion. And I say that because of the dynamic with Master Chief that I will get into in spoilers with this episode, but it really threw me off base. And I'm hoping that there's still a chance to rebound and come episode 2, but I'm just kind of a little bit uncertain how I feel with the back half of this episode. So, yeah, like there were some things that were a little bit like too fine on the point too. And this isn't much of a spoiler, but like I don't mind like the sound effects, but I feel like they exaggerated some of the sound effects to be on point. I'm like, this is like a little too over the top. Even the games don't have it this over the top. At least it's more subtle. And this is again coming from a team that didn't even look or touch the games at all for any reference material for the show, which is pretty bold.
That can't be true, right? Like, how is
That's
that?
what the
I don't
showrunner
know.
said. That's what he said.
it
But
doesn't
he is
seem
also
possible.
he's also not a part of season 2 now, so that might have been
Ooh.
because season 2 has been season 2 has been confirmed in Greenlight. And I remember months ago they're like, yeah, and we're not like it's gonna be a new showrunner. I thought, oh, that seems like there could be problems. Like already season 1, you're getting rid of the new showrunner, and then this last week he said that he didn't look at anything of the games or anything like that. That's according to him. That's what he's saying. I don't know. I don't think he's being sarcastic, but there is an interview of him saying that they didn't look at any source material. But they still I don't even know how it's possible because like
Yeah, but
event-
did he write it? Like, who's the writer for it? Because the writer had to.
I think he wrote some, and that's what I was gonna say because like just even down to the armor, like you had to look
Yeah.
at something. So maybe
Yeah.
he just means from a story point of view, but I don't know. And then maybe who knows? Maybe he's over exaggerating a little. But either way, he's not a part of it for the next season. So
I mean,
It's
like
not.
Taylor said, like they just ripped sound effects out of the game.
Yes.
So
Oh,
clearly,
yeah.
there's some connection there.
There has to be because some of the visuals were they felt like it was a game at times, and like it has to have some reference material to the movie by any means, like somehow, or to the game. But yeah, just at this point, like it felt kind of like fan esque.
it felt like a fan film at times.
Yeah, and I like for me so far at this point of all the different Halo live action products that we've had, that YouTube series Halo Forward into Dawn is still like above this in terms, and I think that says a lot. Just because this is a higher budget TV show, I would imagine that would place it higher up. But no, just that show for YouTube just did it way out of the water than this so far. So
I'll go next just because I don't want to forget. I'll talk off something Taylor said because I had seen that sentiment a few times before I watched the episode that people were kind of into the beginning of it and then it just kind of trailed off. So it's funny that Taylor said that, and I would agree to like a lesser extent for people that don't know. As I've said, the only reason I might join a couple others, but I wanted to be on this one specifically, and I still might actually watch the show because I'm curious to see what happens as far as just like the snowball effect. But I have played Halo maybe an hour or two of my life. The most contact I've had is anytime it's been in Gauntlet and seeing it. I've never touched a Halo game as far as an Xbox Games Pass. I haven't played the new one. Have no context of the story other than like I know Master Chief and he's like this elite fighter with a squad, and I know the basics, right, of like what you'd see on the back of a video game. So the opening I thought was solid. I thought it was maybe a little long, but other than that I was like, okay, this is setting up the world. But I think this moves at a Taylor alluded to it, but it moves at like a rapid speed as far as getting from place to place, as far as big story points. And I think there's some big changes, or I don't know, I don't even want to say reveals, but just choices that I think could have been better served maybe a few episodes down the line. Because I feel like I wanted to, as somebody, and maybe this is what you guys will talk more upon, as somebody that's not familiar with the world, I thought we needed a little bit more with some of the characters and some of the factions, how the world just worked. But it felt like, okay, here's 20 minutes of action, and then boom, we're getting to conflict right away. It didn't really feel like we had time to breathe. That's why I don't think it was actually necessarily like a boring episode. Like, I enjoyed it enough. The CG is kind of the same thing I said in the trailers, where sometimes it looks fine, and then sometimes, like Taylor says, it looks exactly out of the video. Like, it just looks like you are playing a choose your own adventure Halo game on Xbox or something like that. Like, it's like, oh, look at these great graphics for video games, but it's supposed to be TV. So it's kind of a mix. It's funny. It's the reverse, where I felt like when they're closer on some of the aliens, they actually look better. And when they're far away, those apps where you can download and you can add like a volcano behind you or an alien and it's already pre-made. That's what most of the aliens felt like in the show when they're running around. They felt like they're pre-made CGI guys just running around. So I don't think it was like the worst thing ever, but it didn't, other than the intrigue of like, okay, this seems a little messy, it didn't like end and I went, oh man, I can't wait to see more of this world and I want to learn a bit more. So I would say I'm like lukewarm to bad on it, but I don't think it's the worst like pilot I've ever seen. But I definitely don't think it would sell people that aren't doing a podcast or that aren't already invested, like they don't know the lore. So that's my take on the first episode of Halo, non-spoilers.
Dylan, do you want to go? You want me to go?
You go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I I feel pretty similar to what you guys were saying. You mentioned a lot of things that I wanted to bring up, which is awesome because it saves me time. Honestly, like the first 10 minutes, I was like really hopeful. I was like, okay, this is actually really, really cool. It was a different take on like the universe of Halo than I was expecting. I should probably preface, like I very bare minimum knowledge. I've played Halo games, but like I don't know anything about the story. I know Master Chief, I know Covenant, but I don't know who's good, who's bad. I don't know what's going on. So this one, I like the way that it jumps in. You know, I won't go into spoilers yet, but it just, I don't know. I feel like it portrays certain individuals differently than what I had like preconceived notions on what they might be about. So that was really exciting. And after like 15 minutes, like honestly, like 15 minutes of the episode, I was like, oh, okay, here we go. And it kind of took me out of it. I agree a lot with what Travis said, how it wasn't a boring episode. There's a lot of action. So that was good. 100% agree with the CGI. You know, I was like, oh no, this is rough. But then, like you mentioned, they do a zoom in, and it's like, oh, okay, this is kind of really good. and then, you know, it goes back to it just kept flip flopping for me with the CGI and the visuals. But I don't know, it was okay enough, you know, of a first episode. I think my expectations were pretty accurate for what I got out of this episode. Maybe a little bit higher, so that's kind of a bummer. And yeah, I think it could have done with more world building as opposed to just like forcing the storyline. Like, okay, this is where we're going. Maybe we can talk about more specifics with that on just certain things that they introduced in this episode. But yeah, it was it was a pilot, and we're gonna be sticking around. But unfortunately, it doesn't have me like I can't wait for next week's episode. Like I can't wait to, you know, like. I don't want to do comparisons, but like the first episode of Mando or something like that, where I was like, oh my God, what are we in for? Like this brand new show. This is the first episode. We have however many episodes left in the season. Like I'm so hyped. They've already announced season 2, and I'm just here very lukewarm. Yeah.
I will say, because I thought about comparing to Mando, and the only reason I did is because it sounds like you have like a little more knowledge than me, but not too much. And I feel like it's tough because with Mando, we already have that world set up. So for us, it might not be jumping into it. But for others, let's say if someone never watched Star Wars and they show The Mandalorian, would they also be like, what is this world? Who are the characters and stuff? So for me, that's what I was hoping for a bit, because if I don't know these things, I still need to know a bit. And I don't feel like I'm confused. I'm not saying like I don't know what's going on. I get it, but that's why I wonder if someone who's watched Mando for the first time in life and nothing Star Wars, let me know. But I agree. I was hoping for that type of hook, and not like the Grogu hook, just something where it's like, okay, I can't wait to see what's next. So, Dylan, you gonna make this 4 for 4 for the lukewarmish type of crowd, or?
Well, yeah, I guess so. My quick backstory on Halos: I am a really big fan of the series. I don't know, probably put a good like 200 hours in across the games over the years. I've played it since I was a kid. I remember going over to my friend's place down the street and just playing the campaign and Legendary throughout the night. And just I've always played them. Then Halo 5 was the one I didn't, because I didn't have an Xbox One when that came out, and I just haven't gone back to it. But I'm loving Infinite, so I'm kind of on a Halo high right now. So big fan of the series, but even though I love playing through the campaigns, I've never really cared much for the story. I couldn't not really tell you the events that are going on here. I could not give you a Spark Notes, like, here's what happens in Halo 1, 2. Like, it's just all kind of a blur. And I can remember some set pieces, but not necessarily individual story beats or characters, really, stuff like that. So, you know, I'm surprised. I think I'm the most positive on this, and it's not by a huge margin, but I think I'm just maybe a notch or two above the rest of you, and surprisingly above Taylor. And I think, you know, for Taylor, you definitely have a lot more in terms of story expectations, where for me, it's really just the iconography. It's like the armor and the weapons, the sound effects, like those things do it for me. But I don't really have any expectations for, oh man, this story beat they changed from the game, and it's hitting me funny, because I just don't have that deep of knowledge. But I'm into it. I definitely agree with every con you guys have brought up so far in terms of CGI being iffy, or maybe some pacing issues, things like that. But I would say that, you know, there's, as with every video game TV show or movie, there's always so many plot lines going on. It just seems to be a thing that transfers to the big screen whenever this happens. And there is, in terms of like side characters in this, that I'm curious about, but I'd say there's at least two of the kind of stories going on here that I'm really curious about. That next episode, I'm really excited to see where they go. So I at least have a couple things that are really going to, I think, pull me through to the next week, and then hopefully those other things get built up over time, and some of these characters get some more depth to them. But I thought the action was good, and yeah, I'm pretty into it. I'm excited for next week. I like this episode.
There we go. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our first ad break, and then after that, the gloves will be off. So we'll be talking about spoilers and stories and helmets and all that good jazz. So we will be right back. And we're back. So, Taylor, I got to start with this because it's my biggest thing to add with my name, #TrassTotalYou. Because one of our very first debates was always like Sony or Xbox. But the other thing was you would just swear, and I think, you've said that this was probably going to happen, but you would swear that whenever we get Master Chief, he's not going to take that helmet off. And man, I could not believe that episode 1 that he took it off. And not only did he take it off, he took it off for like an extended amount.
I will say, in my defense, I was standing on that mountain before I knew that they rejected the source material.
Yeah, no, and that's why I say like so much has changed since then. But I just remember one of our very first big debates was like, nah, he's never taken that helmet off. You've only seen the back of his head in the games, and here we are 7 years later, and it happened. And that's where, when the helmet came off, all the quotes of, oh, I've never looked at the game material, like they were running through my head. And when he took it off, I really feel like the previews have shown which is the helmet. I think it's going to be like 50-50. I think he's going to put that bad boy on when he fights. Pablo something or whatever. So yeah.
Pablo what? Can you repeat that sentence?
His name's
such
Pablo.
a great cutout.
Your cutout just came back saying Pablo.
Oh.
Narcos crossover.
What's so weird? This last time when we were doing Golden Geeks, the same thing happened when I cut out. Usually when I cut out, from my point of view, is all view freeze, and I know, okay, I've cut out. This time it hasn't happened. Something different. It's like you guys don't cut out. I was just saying that I think we'll be seeing a lot of Pablo, whatever his name is, because it just seems like when he took it off, there's just lots of like I thought he'd do that face
Is that
reveal.
the actor's name of?
Yeah, Pablo whatever.
That's what they call Chief actually on the show. They're rewriting his name.
Pablo.
John Pablo, yeah.
Master Pablo Chief. But yeah, when he took it off, I thought, okay, he's going to put it back on when he gets in that ship, right? And he wasn't. So not that I'm as attached to it as Taylor, but I just know that's a huge thing with the lore. And I just knew that when that was off for so long, like, I don't know how the fans are going to feel about this. And one thing I will say, I actually thought the guy I liked his voice acting when he was under the helmet. I thought he did a good job. Okay, Kirklin's not.
Disagree.
But I thought he did a good job portraying some emotions without being able to see a face. So I thought he did well. Kirklin, you do not think so?
Yeah, I think honestly it was like from the first time he spoke, I had like Chief's voice in my head, which it's on me for that, just like bringing in my own expectations for the character. But like it's not even like his voice. Like I don't want to put on like the person, like their voice is different from the voice actor that did Chief. I think it was like also the deliverance, like through like the mic effect, for him having the helmet. It just it wasn't exactly what I was expecting, and it sounded almost like he was an astronaut, and it just took me away from the Master Chief feeling. Again, it's 100% like nitpicky, and I'm probably gonna get over it hopefully in the next episode, and the more I hear him talk, but. Like I was gonna even just transition to when he took the helmet off. I was still just maybe the look. I was expecting a different face. It was. Hopefully I get over it. It's not much.
To me, it was just like the thing that everyone, like the people that detract against Tobey Maguire No Way Home when he comes to the portal, and I think that's the point. But they're just like he just like looks like a guy, like he's just a random guy. Like why couldn't he have a bigger entrance? For me, that works because that's Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. He's just a fucking guy. But when he took off the helmet and he just had like this nice kind of buzz cut. The
He looked like he
beard.
just can't, like you could plop him in
Yeah.
into Crazy Stupid Love next to
Yes.
Ryan Gosling in the bar.
Yeah.
Wouldn't even know the difference.
He just looked like a guy, and I guess that's
A
been why-
cosplayer for like Master Chief, like that's what I was getting from it.
It's the same problems with we had with Boba. So maybe that's why sometimes the helmet's just best to stay on, because just like with the helmet off, you just don't
this
look
is
as cool.
Simple Chief. This is absolutely
Okay,
Simple
I won't
Chief.
go that far.
Oh
I
yeah,
thi-
some of the things he was doing, like he's like, is it matter his expressions? Oh my god, this is just very different.
The audio listeners are.
yeah. And that's what I was just gonna say. My last point, throw it over, is that when you're talking about Kirklin, you're hearing the voice. If you were to put like 10 voices together, I couldn't tell you what Master Chief voice is. So that's why I guess for me, I had no tie to it, right? So she's like, this guy's doing
Yeah.
a good job portraying like what he's doing and whatnot. I think the face acting's fine when he takes the helmet off, but there wasn't anything too emotional. But Dylan, how are you on the voice, Chief's face, helmet off, everything like that, etc.?
Yeah, I agree with Kirkland on the voice part where it sounded great, and then when he took the helmet off and it changed, it was weird to me. And obviously, it's like, well, yeah, he has some sort of modifier under there, but I feel like they maybe should have just kept it consistent. I honestly, I don't think I have much of a hot take here. I think I'm pretty neutral right now, and I just kind of have to wait and see how it goes in the future episodes, because it's not a whole lot going on in it is longer than you would expect, I guess, for how long he has the helmet off, but it's still not too much. And it's kind of just one scene in particular. So I think I got to wait and see. But I was a little surprised when he's flying off, he didn't even put the helmet back on. Like, he's, he threw that thing out the window. He's done with it. So I don't know. I think I just have to wait and see on that one. But I'm definitely not as bothered as Taylor when it comes to like there being an actor under there and seeing his face and stuff like that. Because I mean, I love Halo, I like Master Chief, but I just don't have. It's not as holy for me, I guess. So for them to change it up is fine. And if he's having his face more, there's probably more room for me to get attached to the character then. So I'm down for it.
Well, Taylor, remember I told you this was the tip off, because when they got the same voice actors for Cortana, all the Halo fans well, why wouldn't they do that for Chief? They got the same, and I told you the reason they did that because they're getting an actor, and they did. And Taylor, on a scale of 1 to 10, how mad would you be if he never put his helmet back on? Like the rest of the show, it's just this dude.
I'm actually pretty salty. I'm not gonna lie.
The first episode was all you got of the helmet, and the rest is just him.
It'd be pretty fucked up. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna be super blunt throughout this review, just because it's like it hits home
your
for
baby,
me a little bit.
We're like in a multiverse right now. This is great.
So as far as it goes for the voice and everything for me, yeah, that was a huge thing that I had. You just mentioned. Now we talked about they had the same voice actors for Cortana. Why not do the same for Chief? And sure enough, the episode came out. I totally overlooked it. It was fine when he's talking in the suit, but yeah, when that helmet came off, just how he looked and his voice with it didn't work, and his mannerisms. The closest thing I felt in this episode that I got to seeing the actual Master Chief captured out of the game, so it was when he was sitting with his head down, the woman was kind of banging on the glass, and he was just staring at this artifact, and he was just so, I don't know if the word somber is the right term, but he was just so in the zone. And I love that, because that felt like Master Chief. Just he's silent, he's always thinking, and he just has his thoughts. When Halsey calls him up, and he just starts immediately divulging his thoughts and his experience there. I love that too, because right out of the books they have that relationship. Halsey is literally their mother to all of these Spartans, and especially when that's portrayed later on when she's talking to the rest of Silver Team. It was fantastic, it was great. But once they broke that kind of rift with him having the helmet off for this long period of time, his facial expressions and everything he was doing, just if it was done appropriately to reflect and represent this character, I think I would have really been on board for it. But it just felt like they retracted a lot of what was going on. Again, the rushed element of this too, of him turning and going AWOL, they went right to Halo 5 with that, and it didn't even feel justified on the grounds of what was going on here. So
it felt very quick.
Spoiler if you haven't played Halo 5, the thing that drives him to go AWOL was when he finds out Cortana is still kicking somewhere and he wants to go out and protect her, which totally makes sense with the relationship that they formed over the games. But this one insurrectionist, and he's just having this changeover. I get what they're going for. They always wanted to portray Spartans as not being soldiers or not being machines. They're just people and all that dynamic, but it was so rushed. I'm jumping the gun a little bit here and getting ahead. We'll get to that.
No, I think that's a good place to go to. Now, my only question is, if they come to you, Taylor, and they say, "Okay, we're gonna have the helmet off a few times in the series," because I feel like people are asking the same stuff with comic books. What would you? Would there be any look that you'd be fine with him under that helmet? Like they say, Taylor, we're gonna have this off. What do you want? What should he look like?
I personally would divert to, again, how they did in that YouTube show of the Spartans, because they had them like their skin is pale white. They have
'cause
normal
they never take it
hair.
off.
They don't really have like facial hair or anything, but their eyes were like straight black with like white irises or pupils. Sorry. I thought it looked great because it just shows a heavy amount of augmentation that their bodies go through. The
Yeah.
whole intro showed their bodies disfigured from, or like cut open, I guess you could say, from augmentation. It wasn't represented.
This guy takes the suit off on Saturdays. You know, he
yeah.
gets in the sun, he jumps in the pool. That's what I'm getting from it. Yeah, he didn't look like a mutant, you know, or like this X-23 type super weapon. That's like the most dangerous thing in the universe, or like the biggest weapon that humanity has. It just looked like, you know, Gus that I party with on Saturdays.
Well, that's what surprised me, because when they were doing like, I've had the feeling the helmet would come off at some point, but not even the first episode, but it did. But when they took the helmet off, it was a very dramatic beat. Like the way they did the beat was either it's like this has been heavy. Like they ask him once, like, "Oh, do you take your helmet off?" And that's pretty much it. Even Mando, I still wonder, like, "Oh, was taking off in the season 1 finale the right choice?" But still, it's like, okay, you have 6 to 7 episodes of this build up, but you don't take the helmet off. He takes it off. Okay. So to me, they build it up as far as either the lore, he doesn't take the helmet off, and only 1 episode, you can't do that. Either he was going to look really like disfigured or something big, or 3, it was going to be like a big actor. Like it was going to be someone, even though we knew it was Pablo, it'd be like somebody, oh my God, Brad Pitt's under there, holy shit. But the way they played it up was strange in episode 1 just for it to be a guy, you know? So
Yeah, I think that's all fair. I will say I at least like the motivation for why he takes it off to build trust with the character's name that I can't remember off the top of my head. I'd feel weird if he keeps doing that. Like that's why he keeps taking it off. Is like, trust me, I'm good. I'm gonna take this off as a sign of trust. If he does that again, I'm gonna be out. That's not good. But at least for this scene, I thought it worked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Taylor, lead us, because we're going there anyway. So Master Chief, you know, they have this big opening battle, which I'm sure we'll talk about, but then there's a lot of stuff going on. So why does he turn, and how do you feel about this? Because yeah, he has turned his back on, what's like the bait? Like I know there's a Spartans. What is like the base name in
the
UNSC? The
Yeah,
UNSC.
Kirklin's got it.
Okay,
United Nations Space Command for the
I didn't know
nerds out
the
there.
full name. I just knew the acronym.
Yeah, it doesn't sit well with me, as I kind of hinted at earlier. Just the whole foundation of him kind of having this awakening of him coming to terms with being okay, like my memories of my family and stuff like that, which I'm trying to remember even in the books or whatnot. Like I'm pretty sure they had some cognition or cognitive recollection of what happened, but like they were like straight up told like that they were going to be becoming like super soldiers. They're going to be like weapons or like whatever. I don't know what they were told, but they were abducted when they were like 6 or 5 years old. They were replaced with clones that were eventually going to die off, so their parents would never suspect anything. That's why you have the reference of legalities with Halsey. But it just doesn't.
Why don't they just make the clones the super soldier and make a?
Because the cloning technology, at least in the main canon, is not like super. It's not very proficient, so like eventually they will die off. It's just
a parent wouldn't notice their kid being replaced, but
no.
So it's good enough. But anyway.
It's good enough. Yeah, we'll see
That's
if
a
that's
tangent
actually
for
what they
another day.
stick with in this storyline or this timeline, I guess. But yeah, just his motives. I like the humanity aspect again, but it was just so rushed when this girl was telling him like, "Yeah, you killed my mom," and this whole moment here just happened to be coinciding perfectly in sync before he's literally given the orders to execute her. I'm sorry, that just seems way too like spot on. Like, and again, they're diving way too quick into the humanity here when he was literally this impenetrable like killing machine not too long ago. So.
Well, and he fights her back because he's like, I got my orders and I went down and executed the mission. And then she has some line about, well, wouldn't you think there's more to it when you want to investigate? And then he's like, well, that would make every outcome, like a possibility go wrong, because it's pretty much just like, okay, I get this order, I'm gonna go do it because I've been told to do it. But if I were to think about it, then that could make the mission go wrong because I might backpedal, I might be questioning all this stuff. So you pretty much say he's a machine, but that's where I don't know. I guess it's just I'm fine with him changing because of her eventually, but it's just you already see this is about an hour episode, and within the first 30 minutes he's questioning things, which I get. He's starting to memorize, like have memories, but to do a full just hijack, like execute, like get out of there, that's where I thought I couldn't connect, because I feel like lots of the episodes going forward now will be him on the run, right? So I'm sure we'll get some dialogue with him with people, but I feel like we needed a few more, and maybe there's flashbacks, so maybe they can do that, but I wanted to see a bit more of the dynamics of how does he feel. I think the first episode they could have been fine of just kind of him being an ass kicker, you learning the world, and maybe episode 1 ending with some sort of, okay, something's not right here. I also think that they maybe should have followed HBO Max and Amazon, where they will drop 3 episodes of a show and then do the whole season. I think that might have served this better. It still would have been rushed, but I feel, I don't know. I am very interested to see how they follow up with this episode too. But yeah, it's kind of what we've said, but I just didn't buy. I don't think it's a bad reason for him to questioning things and being, like Tara said, like more in touch with his humanity, but it just was very, very fast. And same thing, what if this girl is lying? What if she is like bad, but
Yeah, I feel like what they should have done or could have done is just spent more time of emphasizing like what the Spartans mean to the UNSC, what the Spartans mean to these soldiers that are on the battlefield with them, and you don't really get any of that. They just show up and it's like, okay, these guys are cool, they must be badasses.
They're the Knights of Ren.
Yeah, and like, to backtrack myself here, I was actually pretty positive from like the first 10 minutes, because they had that like spookiness emphasis on the Spartans, like just when the rebels were talking amongst themselves, and that's where I was actually really pumped. I don't even remember. Are we in spoilers? Yeah, we are. Okay.
Yeah. You're good. You're safe.
So like I was happy that, from their perspective, like what the UNSC is affecting them negatively, because that's just something I've never ever seen in Halo. Taylor, you've played the games. Like, is that a thing where like the UNSC is almost like they're fighting aliens, but like they're kind of oppressing like the other humans on different planets? Oh, they are?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the Insurrectionist War, I get like side little note here. The insurrectionists that didn't want to be part of the UNSC, they broke off huge conflict, and then initially they created the Spartans to counteract and go fight these terrorists and like insurrectionists. And then
That's
the
why
Covenant came.
That's why I liked when Master Chief landed, that the girl's father right away like looked at him, was like starting to shoot at him, and because as somebody that just has very little knowledge, I'm like, oh, he's just gonna come in here and be the hero and save the day. But then people were not a fan of Master Chief, and they started taking shots. I'm like, what's going on here? I thought he was the guy. I thought he was one of us. So I was like, oh, this is very interesting with the girl left alive, all that stuff. I think even though it was just like, oh, look, they're scary, I did like the shots of them walking through the halls and all the soldiers would back away, because it was really establishing of like, okay, these 3 or 4 are different. So I was liking okay, something's a little shady about these guys, whether they want it or not.
Yeah, and like I said, like that was what I was really liking in the first 10 minutes, and then all that just goes away. Like every character that they introduced in the first 10 minutes just dies like horrifically, like in the preceding 5 minutes. I that's where I was like,
was this show rated R by chance? Like 18?
I was
I'll have to
shocked at
look.
how
It
fucking
fucking caught me off
I
guard.
was like, Peacemaker
Man.
just dropped in, and
legs and arms flying off.
That little
heads
kid,
getting shot off.
are we all gonna die? And then the lady leaves, and then what happens is that kid and all those people do die. They just get
Yeah.
executed. I thought Chief was gonna land in that moment and save them. No, that alien just fire squatted them all, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh my god, like they literally just killed a bunch of kids.
And then the next time they have that shot from inside looking out, and you see the bodies, and the subtitles, it just says sizzling. It's like, oh my god, that is dark.
Oh god. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'll have to look
I
up
was
rating.
shocked. I just want to shout, because Taylor, you said you maybe weren't a fan of some of the sound effects from because they really did just copy paste them from the game, and you thought that maybe they were just a bit over the top, a bit in your face.
I did. Yeah, like there was just certain moments with the energy shield and everything like that. This was one significant just hit on the head when Chief is getting shot at, and you hear the shields drain, and he goes behind cover, and it's just nothing happening. Then you hear the
yeah, that was
like,
weird.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah,
honestly, I kind of liked it. I mean, it's just familiar for me. Maybe it was a bit fan servicey, but I didn't think it was too over the top. But it's funny that you think it was. But I mean, even just like seeing the energy sword is great. I like that the Covenant he had the active camo sound too. I like that.
Oh yeah,
that little touch. That was fun. But man, I gotta say, in that opening scene, the father Jin Ya, I think is his name here. I have in my notes. That guy's kind of stupid, right? Because he, like, how many times have they shot at these Covenant and like their bullets aren't doing a single thing? Like the Insurrectionists don't kill a single Covenant, and then at the end, that like everyone's already dead. So I don't know why he cares so much that this one Covenant's running around still. But he like runs up to him with his AK and is shooting.
Well,
him.
it was his daughter, right? He saw the elite walk into his daughter.
It looks
Yeah.
like he was going a different way. I thought he was walking elsewhere.
Well,
maybe it was his
No,
daughter.
he was going
but
to the
me,
daughter.
it looked really weird.
I'll play right in the middle because I feel like yes he was going for his daughter, but I felt many times that arena the logistics of what was going on, I did not understand where people were. Like that one moment where she was with that older guy with the gray hair and they like split off and then she just found him dead just kind of randomly somewhere. I was like, you didn't go this way at all, kind of like you just kind of, and maybe his body just like ricocheted over here because I did look up, it's rated MA, so it is mature, so that is like that. But yeah, I felt like that's where I think we talked about this in the trailer, that I liked the set piece of the opening, but the opening did feel very much okay. They're on a sound stage and they are in this one little circle, and here we go. And like so that was the most mix of some of the stuff looked great and some of the stuff looked meh. Obviously the video game stuff I don't pick up as much as you guys as far as the sounds, but I even knew because you guys did the gauntlet match, I knew like the healing sound, and that's what was weird because I was like, what does this signify? Like, what does this mean for the show and stuff? But at the same time, I don't mind it as far as like. I think it's kind of cool. They're paying tribute to the game as much as they can, and I actually wasn't sure how I was gonna feel about the first person stuff. I think the majority worked for me. I think when he's in conversation, I don't need it. Like when he was talking with I think her name was Guan, because it was spelled like G or KWAN or something like that.
Quan.
Yeah.
Quan. Thank you. So I don't know if I liked it when he was talking to people, but quick action shots of him doing stuff, a gun to the head, I think it worked for me. It was fun little. It wasn't too much, but they could go too much. So
I think they could. Yeah, I'm a bit worried.
Yeah.
I thought that it was so sparingly used here that it didn't.
It took me
Didn't
right
affect
to
me
Doom with the Rock. and
Yes.
honestly, it did take me out of it. I understand what they're doing there. Like, oh, video game. This is what you do in the video game, and it just didn't rub me the right way. Like I said, I just got taken to Doom, and that's not exactly what I want a 2022 Halo TV series to have. And I don't know, like the audio effects like had me definitely with the sounds of the guns, the shields, the active camouflage, as Dylan shouted out, like that was fun. But I think when they leaned a little bit too much in that direction, I was kind of eye rolling. I don't know. I'm like, I know what you're doing here. Just stop at this. But hopefully it's no more than that going forward.
Did it also bother? Because the one other thing that bothered me is they have like their Gatling gun on the back of their vehicle. They're shooting the Covenant with, and it just doesn't do anything. Like it just doesn't even pierce their armor. But then when Chief picks up the same gun and uses it, it just like mows them down in like 2 bullets. I get he's stronger and smarter and stuff, but I feel like that's the same. Like he doesn't have magic bullets. Like,
yeah, does he make the
same
bullets
gun.
stronger? I don't.
I'm pretty sure it ended up back on that Warthog after Chief took it off too. When the shot goes to like the dad.
Really?
Yeah, I was just curious,
Well, he
like how
fixed
much
it. He
bullshit
fixed
is there
It
gonna be?
respawned. It respawned.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's take our second ad break and then we'll be back and maybe talk about some of these side characters we haven't touched upon. So we'll be right back. And we're back. So yeah, I'll let you lead the way because how many of these people? I don't think the young girl Guan. She's new, right?
As far as I know.
Okay, so what about some of these people? I know you alluded to like the scientists. I kind of figure, okay, she's from the video game. Some of these other leaders and like political people, are they people from the game? Are they people kind of based on people from the game? And then how do you just feel overall? But we got some of the political side of, some sides disagreeing, the daughter and father dynamic of he's very much like, oh, you just got to terminate, deal with the situation. She's trying to find like a diplomatic way. So we kind of saw like a little snippet here or there of what the political scene is in the Halo world right now.
Yeah, so Captain Keyes, Miranda Keyes, and Catherine Halsey, all prominent figures in the Halo franchise, very prominent. So that was cool to see them and just kind of like their element pulled out of the books and the games brought into here and this dynamic and just their take on it. Halsey seems very different in how I was expecting her, because the Halsey in the usual canon is like, she doesn't take shit. Like, she's very headstrong and very much like she doesn't really give a shit. Like, she's putting down notes. She's fascinated with everything, which I loved her curiosity that was represented in this episode. But it seems like she's literally kept on a leash by the UNSC, which I wasn't expecting. So, yeah.
Do you like any of them? Have anything to say on them or no?
Well, I think first of all, I'm just going to say I think it is awesome that we have a black individual playing Captain Keyes, because in the game he was white. So I'm just going to say that out there in case no one else is aware of this.
I didn't know that. Is that the dude from Halo 1 that you initially talked to? Okay,
yeah,
I know that guy.
Yeah, the captain of the Pillar of Autumn.
Yeah,
so him, and Miranda Keyes, like I think it's super cool to have, again, this interpretation. It's just one of those things that we can run with and we can see how it pans out with the storyline and everything like that, which is awesome. And to see like their father-daughter dynamic is very new, because I never got to see that in the games, and maybe there's a book that focuses on it, but to see this kind of bickering and this dilemma is very exciting for me because it's new.
Nice.
You guys have anything to add on side characters here that we met?
I like that stuff enough. I think Halsey is the one that I'm most interested in. But the other characters, I'm down to see where they go. I'm really curious what's going on with that clone person in that tube that Halsey was an experiment that they cut funding on or something like that. I don't know what's going on there, but I'm curious about that. But yeah, I think. It seems like she's kind of playing both sides. Or, I mean, really, she's mostly on Chief's side. But, she has to kind of keep appearances. So I'm very excited to see more of that character and how she kind of finds the line between the two. So I think that could be a fun dynamic.
Yeah, I agree. That's like your classic kind of scientist monster thing where she wants to keep seeing how far it'll go until someone puts a foot down. And even then, they said don't get involved anymore. And she's like, yeah, okay, sure. And then she goes to her Spartan team like, you don't kill Chief at all. And I actually really like this. Okay, she's maneuvering around, everything like that. So what, Kirklin?
I laughed so hard in that instance because she was like in the command bridge like with everyone, and then I swear she like fast travels to the shipyard. I don't know how far away that is from the command center. And she's just talking to them.
Just one
and then it just
screen.
cuts. Yeah, exactly. It just cuts back to like the command bridge, and she's just like right there. She's not sweaty like she just ran. Like she's literally just I've been here the whole time. And
in
was
the
a
show,
weird
people just
cut
saw
for
her
me.
book through the corridors and everything. Like, oh yeah, I just
Like
got to
you
use
see
the
those
washroom.
edits.
Yeah,
Like you see those memes of like Batman just like running.
She's doing the get out run through the halls to try and get to her Spartans and everything. And
those are slippery floors too. They keep them very shiny.
Yeah.
No garbage at all anywhere to be seen. It's like an Empire base.
Yeah. And I was gonna ask this because it was kind of conjoined. Then I think you guys would know. What's the thing What's the thing Master Chief is touching that's making him remember things? I'm gonna start calling him Halo from now on. What's Halo touching there? Okay.
Just an artifact, yeah.
And in games, are they important or they just give you XP? Like what
in
is
games? This thing has no fucking relevance to my knowledge. There's a lot of Forerunner artifacts because this thing is Forerunner. Here, okay, another comparison moment here. The core, this is called Halo, obviously, because there's Halo rings that destroy sentient beings with nervous systems in the galaxy, right?
I didn't learn that in this episode.
I didn't even know that.
Yes,
I didn't
obviously.
Obviously, yeah. So this device, I'm assuming somehow is going to segue into coordinates to getting to Halo or the weaponry or whatever. But I'm just gonna stop there and leave it at that when we come across that in a further episode. So
if we come across it.
Yeah.
I will say, and I imagine there's probably episodes where it's a little bit different, but I remember when we watched the trailers and I was saying, I don't know, they're showing a lot of the humans and not lots of Master Chief, and I was wondering if that was going to be the show. I think they actually had a good balance of you had some Master Chief, some of these side characters. I think obviously some episodes you might get a bit more of him or a bit more of them, but I think if they can kind of keep this dynamic of time-wise, it'll be good, because I liked the people enough, some of these side characters and the political stuff, but I think if too much of it, unless it gets really good, I could be kind of bored or it not really wanting much more of the series. So I think this was a good balance of the multiple characters so far. And I hope we know, I'd like to, not that we really know that much about Master Chief, but I do want to know about the other Spartans as well. Someone's like a non-game player. I would like some, like when the doctor, is Halsey the doctor? Okay, so when she told them don't kill Master Chief at any point, I really want to know, okay, when they got their orders, were they just, we're going to kill him or take him out no matter what, or were they already feeling conflicted? And I was kind of hoping we were going to get that point of view, and we didn't, and I hope we kind of get that later on down the line. Because, I know it's about Master Chief, a.k.a. Halo, but I don't know. I still want, if he's a part of this team, I'd like to know some of their dynamics as well, and maybe we'll get to see that, so.
Again, that's something that's like one of my favorite things about Halo 5 is you get a heavy dose of that, and it comes to terms with like the iterations of Spartans, where his iteration and his generation are deathly loyal to him, and then you have the later iterations of Spartans which kind of question it and don't feel good about those motives, but they're the ones going in to take Chief down. So I do agree with you. I hope we get it in the show.
So I gotta wait till season 5 is what you're saying, though. That happened,
least.
4 more years. Okay, cool.
Here's a logistical question that I was kind of just confused on. So they're on Madrigal. What's the name of it?
Madrigal.
There you go.
From Encanto.
Everyone's there. And then Chief and the rest of the Silver Team, like, they go in separate aircraft, I guess. But then like Silver Team's like back at base, like just hours and hours.
Covenant intel, or whatever they call it, technology.
Is that
because they went in the Covenant ship, didn't they? To study it.
I must have missed that, because I was like, why did they get back so fast?
I just attributed it to that. I'm like, the Covenant just have better technology.
Any show or movie that has space travel, it's always just like instant. We never really get those sequences where they're just slowly floating to a thing. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But no, there you go. They were flying the Covenant ship, so answers that. I guess we haven't talked about the High Charity scene with the Covenant like home base. You want to talk about that now?
Absolutely.
Well, so this was the other thing I was talking about, where this is like a storyline that I'm really curious to see. I mean, one, it's fun to see the kind of villains and what's going on there. But I'm really curious what's going on, because there's a human who's there, and she has this just amazing outfit. I just loved her. I loved her Star Wars kind of
cozy
sort of outfit. But I don't know what's going on there. That's far beyond my Halo knowledge. But I'm really curious to see why there's this person here, how she learned their language, how she got a part of their. I don't know how much we'll get of that backstory, but I'm really intrigued by that, because that seems very unexpected to me, I would say.
Yeah, I was kind of like you, Dylan, where I was like, okay, if I play the video games, I imagine I might know what's going on here, or some alluding and whatnot. But I will say, as times when the show CGI looked great, this little alien dude looked phenomenal in his chair.
Yeah.
I thought he looked really, really good. And maybe it's because he wasn't in motion. He was just kind of sitting in his chair and talking. But that's what I'd say about the scene, that I was intrigued. I got lots of Coruscant vibes where she was sitting there and everything, and not just the dress, but just like outside. But it was a nice, just, I don't know, little setup for something more. But again, I was saying, similar to Dylan, where I was like, okay, I'm open to see what this is, because I don't really have much idea. So little Easter eggs.
That's exactly how I was feeling.
Seeds.
I just, from like the alien language, you're just expecting something not a human, like in the chair, maybe humanoid, but not exactly a human. Especially like the angle that they had, you could see a shadow of just like some big thing, but it was just her giant outfit, which was awesome. So that was a moment where I was like, okay, this is an interesting thing. I have no idea what's going on. I don't remember any humans collaborating with Covenant from the games. So I'm excited to see why they're so loyal to her, or like why they have so much, I don't know, praise like this individual in the chair seems to be a big deal. He's got his own bodyguards, but he even looks at this human with admiration or something like that.
Is she for sure human? Was that?
He said human. Yeah.
Okay.
She's reading some Stephen King novel. I don't know.
Yeah, okay. Just because I thought he made some dig about you're reading about these humans, but maybe he just kind of said you barely are one or something like that. Maybe it was just more of an insinuation. But
yeah, I think he was just saying we're learning about your people, and hopefully you can teach me about it someday. I don't know.
he was trying to get in her pants.
Yeah.
Show me the way. She's like, not a chance, dude. Not happening. Taylor, what do you take from this scene?
Really don't like it. Really don't like it at all.
Interesting.
I think having a human confidant or whatever on this level with the hierarchs, for me, not okay. The hierarchs are basically like the religious leaders of the covenant. So you have the three prophets: prophet of truth, regret, and mercy. This is the prophet of mercy.
Sure was. Nice.
So
Prophet of regret. I can't wait to meet him. He must be a ball of fun.
He's just mopey all the time.
Yeah, he is the most fun. He does all the party.
And then he regrets it the next day. He's like, damn it. Why'd I do it again, guys? You got to talk me out of it.
The prophet of truth is like the worst of the three, and he's the main villain throughout the initial Halo trilogy. So you see all these other prophets, and they all come in contact with Master Chief sooner or later, but
of course.
Now, could she be... I remember in the trailer, you guys were talking about at some point whether it was a character that was maybe later on in the game or completely new. There was some woman that was popping off with, a bunch of, alien-looking attacks.
the hunter worms, yeah.
Yeah, was that her, or is that a different character coming up?
I'm pretty sure that was her walking through a man UNSC facility, and the worms and stuff are coming out of the vents.
Yeah.
Those are hunter worms, yeah. So
But her being attached to them, that was something new, right? I thought that was something we were talking about at some point, or did I get that wrong there?
I can't recall.
So, but that's what I mean. So this human character seems like she's completely new, right?
To me, I have not seen a human character come into this kind of association with the prophets, so it is new, and that's why I don't like it. If they're going down this, to me, it's a cliche. It's like, oh, we need to have you here so we can learn about Earth's history or your race. How can we defeat you by learning from you? I think that's fucking bullshit. Excuse my French. I think it's fucking ridiculous.
But we don't know her motivations yet or who she is.
True, and that's why I'm going to.
If she has some big powers and stuff like that,
I'm
not
not putting both my feet forward on that. I'm putting one full foot forward onto it though, and I am saying again, it's bullshit.
Firmly.
The covenant,
you might be the Lord of Regret if it turns out good,
maybe to me and my interpretation of the covenant, and again, I am open. It's not both feet. It's just one. They come in and they don't need to study humanity because they're advanced, they're more powerful, they outnumber them, and they just go in and they glass planets and bring hell. And it works for them. It totally works. So why they would need to have this girl to understand and learn from, that's the cliche I'm hoping doesn't happen. Kirklin went dark mode there for a second.
Yeah, he's doing something.
I'm hoping it's not the case, though. I hope that, there is some more prominent kind of backstory to this girl.
Yeah.
But that being said, I'm still not attached to them having a human in their presence. So
yeah, I like the idea, but I definitely could be there with you next week where I might put both my feet forward. I just kind of have to wait and see on that.
You got a toe in, not one full foot.
No, right now I got no feet forward. I'm into it, but it very well could go wrong quickly.
No, that's good to know because to me, cause not knowing that history of they don't really socialize or talk with humans or work with them that much, for me, I'm just like, oh look, it's a human and alien having a meeting here. Here we go. Let's see what this is about. But
he had quite the chin too. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say.
The girl or the
Quite
prophet?
The prophet.
Oh, it was a prophet of regret. I put Lord of Regret. I gotta change that. I'm gonna be keeping
That's
that.
the kind of Elden Ring, yeah. Lord of Regret. That sounds like a boss in Elden Ring.
Hey, Lord of Regret. You're back again. What else? Anything else to add? I think I've hit all my notes for this episode.
I had one more thing, and that is, in the second vision that Chief has, he sees himself drawing a picture of the artifact. So I'm really curious what's going on there. If he like if there's like some time travel shit, if someone went and placed these memories in his head, if it's just, it could be just dumb coincidence. I really hope not. Or it could be like a flashback that's mixed with kind of a dream sequence, and so it's not actually like 100% what his memory was, but it's kind of changed it or something. So I'm really curious about that, because that seems crazy to me, that just decades ago he had this vision of this artifact. And yes, it's kind of a generic polygon-like object, but I don't know what's going on there, and I really want to know the answer to that. So hopefully that's not just some random thing that they plopped in there and it has some sort of significance.
Yeah, that's one thing about the show. You don't know whether the show's good or bad. I don't have enough intake to see their track record to be like, okay, are these things gonna pay off? Like once we get to season 2, we'll kind of know, okay, they kind of just throw stuff out there willy nilly, and that's it. Or are they building up to something? And it's already been confirmed for season 2, so they have faith in it, probably because obviously it has some backing and whatnot. But yeah, I liked all the vision stuff like that. Obviously showing what I would assume is his parents and some of his backstory and everything. So.
All right, I got some notes to list off real quick. So first of all, the Madrigal people had like the most epic haircuts. They were gnarly, just like shaved on the sides, huge mullet. That was a bold
Not
haircut.
great.
I liked it.
New hairstyle for you, Kirklin?
I don't think so. It's a bold move. You know, maybe. No, I'm not even gonna make any.
Regretful. For sure.
Yeah,
24-hour stream.
That's probably
24-hour
his
stream next
haircut.
year. We give you that haircut
I
if
don't
we hit
think
our
so.
goal. No, okay.
A super stretch goal, perhaps, followed by a buzz shortly after. And then, man, those kids, they like, what was her name? Quan. She like
Quan.
led them to this route that, you know, helps with, I don't even know. They say it like helps you with your aircraft or something like that, your spacecraft, but also it just allows you to trip. And then they just take all these drugs and then proceed to just get exploded by the Covenant. I'm like, man, these kids are having like the worst trip possible. Oh, God. You just take like crazy psychedelics and then your buddy just like explodes next to you. God, what an experience that could have
And
been.
like his arms are flying off.
Yeah.
His head is getting
Yeah.
disintegrated. Like,
That's, and like what we were talking about earlier, like I didn't think this was an MA show, but then when that moment happened, just fucking guts everywhere. It was gnarly.
MA, does that mean we're gonna see some master dick at some point? You know?
Hopefully.
That's MD.
Oh yeah, and then just earlier on when like the insurrectionists were just talking about like the stories of Batman, it very much just made me think of
What?
stories of the Spartans. It made me think of the Batman.
I didn't know
and
Batman was
and
gonna be in the show. Fuck yes,
I had
I
Batman on
can't
the
wait.
mind. But just like in the Batman, like the way the cops
No
like talk
guns.
about like Batman out there. and
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
Just
That
the
was cool.
fear that he brings. I really like that, and then it kind of got thrown out later on in the episode. I thought the Spartans, at least when they first appeared, looked really cool. Their outfits were maybe a little borderline cosplay, like when they just were like standing there. But honestly, when they're like doing their action, jumping around, it looked pretty freaking cool to me. Especially when you get to like the Marines and they just look like Starship Troopers. It was nice to see some just standout Spartans that had different designs. They're not all just, you know, Spartan 1. I don't know what the hell the Mark 6 Mjolnir armor, whatever.
You
the hell
got
they
it.
called
You got it. You're a Halo guy.
Yeah, I think they gave them lots of cool hero shots and outlines. So that I think if you purely, and obviously maybe Taylor this didn't hit him, but if you're purely just looking for the Spartans to look cool in the show, I think they do that. So that's a positive, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, and I definitely was thinking that the Spartans lucked out and didn't just start firing on the Marines like before the pulse went off, because they would have been so fucked if they were like shooting at the Marines right before that they enter the ship to go take down Master Chief, and then they just pulse, and then he ends up leaving anyways, and then they're just like surrounded by a lot of soldiers. I feel like that was lucky on their half there at least. And then my last one, this one just, I don't even know if you guys caught this. This was when Quan's dad like went to go kill the elite while the elite was walking to the daughter, and she like locks eyes with her dad, and she just has this like super euphoric grin on, and it like zoomed in on it. I proceeded to laugh because I knew exactly what was gonna happen, and it just she went from such a high to just such a low, seeing her dad just explode, and she's just like, "Papa!" and like huge smile. Zoom in. Oh,
Well, he didn't just explode. He got that sword through the belly. They like gutted him.
yeah, it was a brutal death, but anyways, it made me laugh, so I wrote it down and shared, and unfortunately, you guys had to hear me do that, but.
No, I appreciate it. It's good. I always like hearing personal stories about laughing at dads getting gutted. You know, we need more of those.
Oh, one video game thing too that I forgot to shout out that made me laugh was when in Halo when there's just a random Marine there and he's like, "Hey Chief, take this gun. It's so much better than what you got." And like the other Spartan did that to Chief. And it just seemed so strange. It just seemed like an NPC was just literally like, "Here's my gun," while I go AFK because I'm an NPC and don't do anything. And that just ties into my thought on like, right now, these Spartans don't have much life, honestly, for me. They just seem like armored dudes. They don't seem, I know they're supposed to be like killing machines, but this unit, Silver Team, I think they were called, it just feels like I'm playing a first-person shooter and I jump into a mission and I'm in Silver Team. I don't know fuck all about anyone in my team or anything like this. This is just the boots that I'm in, like portraying, the protagonist. Like they just don't feel like characters to me. I really hope that changes and they're not just like we're with Chief. Like that's all they are for the rest of the season. And it just accentuated in that moment when like this character that hasn't said a single fucking word is just like, "Hey Chief, take my gun," while I just walk away with no gun. Like it was just really weird for me. And again, I know it's from the video games, but it just really took me out in that moment.
They'll have an emotional scene where the camera just slowly pans and they all take their helmet off.
Yeah. And they smile, and then Halo gets
Papa.
gutted by a sword. Yeah.
And Taylor just starts crying.
They call Halo Papa. That's it. I like that. I hope they retcon that. Oh, there's Papa.
Oh, but yeah, it's the end of my long list.
There
Thanks
you
for
go.
listening.
Dylan, do you have anything to shout out before we end this one?
Oh, here we go.
You all right,
Bring
Taylor?
us back in.
You doing all right?
So at the
He
the
just
end of
goes
this
on a
first
20-minute
episode-
rant. This fucking show.
Yeah, buckle up, everybody. There's a couple things I do want to note.
Is that what he says to Quan when they're like when they're going off at the end? Oh no, strap in. That's what he says.
Strap in, yeah, strap in, everybody.
Strap in, Papa.
So, fucking Papa. I will say, okay, after nitpicking this and kind of looking at it in retrospect, hearing you guys talk and everything, so the whole thing at its core with Master Chief kind of like, and this is kind of like my closing thoughts to this episode, Master Chief kind of going AWOL. I don't like it. It's too soon. It's rushed. It's not jiving with me, but I do like how Halsey's pushing the Cortana program on getting it in there with Master Chief and stuff like that. I think it's fitting because at the same time, there was a lot of kind of referencing in the game too about, particularly Halo 5, how the Spartans exhibit sociopathic tendencies to kind of they have a social disconnect, right? Because they've gone through a shit show of augmentations and they can't just engage with regular people. It's very different for them and their upbringing. So the AIs kind of help balance that and keep them more level. You were talking, Kirklin, about how that EMP goes off from the artifact and Silver Team was about to engage. I know probably like you, Travis, probably really like that dynamic of the regular people just kind of stepping aside as the Spartans walk through. That's something that I don't necessarily want to see them just be killing human beings, and I was kind of caught off guard with.
Well, they weren't killed. Well,
They were about to. They were
I don't
ready.
know.
They
I
were
don't know
ready.
what was going to happen there, to be honest. But I mean, I
neither.
felt the incentive from you, Kirkland, where they were going to. And to me, the Spartans wouldn't, like, even with Halsey kind of like dishing them out and giving them the orders, like they would disable them, but they wouldn't kill them because that's a very big difference between Spartans and humans.
It's a mission failed. I've played Halo. I know what happens when you shoot them.
I don't think they were going to be shooting them. I just think they would have stepped in the way of them killing Master Chief. Like, not necessarily like, okay, you fucking try to kill Chief, we're blowing you away. Just like,
What was Halsey's command though? She said like take out anyone that's going for Master Chief.
that doesn't mean
an
kill.
enemy.
That doesn't mean kill. That can
There's
be
like
stun. That can-
1,000
They-
Marines. They're just
they
gonna let them be like,
reciprocated
no,
it, though.
don't
They
do
were
this.
they were also very scared though of the Spartans. So maybe if they would just grab Chief right away, the Marines would have backed off and be like, hey, yeah, take them in. Like, we don't know what would happen, but that's why you guys also can't assume they were just going to turn around and kill them all.
That's true, we
Because
can.
like they could have went in
I
there
will.
and Chief Papa would have been with his hands up, like ready to go. So that's why I think give it a few more episodes. You guys could be completely right if they're just disregarding the rules, but you don't know what was going to go down in that situation.
With the killing that I saw from the Covenant on those poor kids in the woods, I was expecting to see that amount of violence on these fucking
On the
Marines,
Marines?
just doing their duty. Because they're like aiming. I don't know if they're aiming their guns at the unit, but they're
Doing
just
my
ready
duty.
to engage. The person's like setting up the breach charge, just like looks over their shoulder, and the look of like terror that they have when these Spartans are just like. I
To
think
me,
they're ready. I think they're ready for action. in that
I
moment.
took it as they were going to blow the door, but the Spartans were going to be the first ones in. So they would have got the first crack at Chief, like reprimanding him, getting him down, like arresting him possibly. That's what I took it as. They're going in first. If things go bad after me, but I don't think it would have got bad. I think they would have found a way. Like I'll have to say, no, Chief's probably like God Mode could take all three of them. But I just mean like I think that was the plan. They were going to go in first because they weren't standing back. They were ahead of all the Marines first, right? So they would have got.
Yeah.
They would have been
They
in
stepped
there.
up.
Yeah. So
Um,
give him a
Bill.
chance. Give him a chance.
I got a hunch.
Yeah, I got to see where more of these kind of like storylines are going to go. The AWOL things just really rubbed me the wrong way. But again, literally the first half of this episode was fantastic. I am First Contact, like the name literally of this episode was like Contact or whatever. I am such a huge fan. It's like my Order 66. When I see it again and again and again,
Article 72.
It hits that sweet spot for me so good. And like one of the biggest Halo things, and again, that YouTube series is when they had first contact with the Covenant, and it was great. And then this moment here, when you didn't get to see them and the kids on drugs were just being melted by plasma, which the plasma was really cool. I like the extra attentive to detail, how things were melting in the plasma. That was really well done. And then it just, the smoke as the doors burst open and the elites walking through was fucking prime. I loved that. It was great. The action when the Spartans drop in and we're just like running around, going crazy. It was so cool. The elite like demon and just goes to town on him. Like it was so fantastic. I can't wait to see more fights come out of that.
They do stuff like that in the games, right? They like the little grunts or whatever will just like demon run away from yeah. So that's fun. That's a fun detail that they brought in. I hope we
Master
get some
Chief-
grunts. I guess we saw them in the trailer. Never mind.
Yeah, we'll get some grunts and some jackals, I believe, as well.
Yeah, the jackals with the shields, right? That's those units.
Yeah. So I'm interested to see kind of like more special units come in. Like they set the foundation here, and I'm scared as hell going forward. But right now, I sit literally at like a 5 out of 10, 50%, and that scares me.
There was quite a few moments when I thought like, man, if this wasn't Halo attached to this is just like another Space Channel or like sci-fi like show. Like there's nothing really new for like the genre, but it's got the Halo skin, and I mean, I don't think we'd be reviewing this show if it wasn't Halo. So
Oh, we would not.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be happening. I don't think we'd be there. So, that was Halo episode 1. I think next week, unless he has a guest, it might just be Taylor. So that's going to be interesting because the rest of us will be reviewing Morbius unless someone has time to squeeze in a Halo viewing in a whatever
my
review.
schedule.
I'll carry the torch for you guys. Don't worry.
Yeah,
I'll try to make
Be
it.
very bleak.
But then episode 3, there should be some of us back. So look out for that. We'll be here for all 9 episodes. There'll be a review. So let us know on our Discord, the YouTube, the Twitter, the Facebook, wherever you listen to this, wherever you want to chime in. Let us know what you thought about this episode, any of our takes. And I promise when you hear from us next, I'll not be boring.
peace.
Bye-bye.